Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past these coins every single day, tossing them into jars, dropping them in parking meters, or leaving them forgotten in old drawers, never realizing they're holding a piece of history that collectors would literally fight over. Today we're diving deep into a coin so rare, so valuable, that finding one could completely change your life forever. We're talking about the 1972 Jefferson Nickel, and hold on to your seats because this ordinary-looking 5-cent piece has sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $28 million. Yes, you heard that right. $28 million for a nickel that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. But here's where it gets even more incredible. Stick with me, because after we uncover every secret about this 1972 treasure, I'm going to reveal another Jefferson nickel from 1969 that's worth even more, a coin so extraordinarily rare that its value will leave you absolutely speechless. And trust me, you're going to want to check every single nickel you own after hearing about these two legendary pieces. Now let's talk about why the 1972 Jefferson nickel became such a phenomenon in the numismatic world. The year 1972 was a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War was still raging, the Watergate scandal was just beginning to unfold, and the U.S. economy was experiencing significant inflation that would define the entire decade. The Philadelphia Mint was working overtime, producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the public's demand for circulating currency. During this mass production, something extraordinary happened in the minting process, something so rare that it created what would become one of the most sought-after error coins in American history. You see, the 1972 Jefferson nickel that's worth millions isn't just any ordinary nickel. It's a coin with a double die obverse error, meaning the die used to strike the coin was accidentally impressed twice during the manufacturing process, creating a doubling effect on Thomas Jefferson's profile, the date, and the word liberty. But here's what makes this particular error so insanely valuable. The doubling is so prominent, so crystal clear, that you can see it with the naked eye, unlike many error coins that require magnification. The letters in Liberty appear to have a distinct shadow, almost like they're vibrating or moving. And Jefferson's eye, his hair, and the fine details of his collar show this incredible doubling that immediately signals to any knowledgeable collector that they're holding something extraordinarily special. When the Philadelphia Mint discovered this error, they immediately destroyed the flawed die and pulled as many of the error coins from circulation as they possibly could, but a small number, we're talking maybe only a handful, had already made it into the hands of the public. For years, these coins circulated normally, passed from person to person, spent on candy bars and newspapers, completely unrecognized for their incredible value. It wasn't until the late 1980s when a sharp-eyed collector in Ohio was going through a bag of nickels from his local bank that he noticed something unusual about one particular 1972 nickel. The doubling was so obvious that he immediately knew he had found something special. He sent it to the professional coin grading service, and when it came back graded MS 67, meaning it was in near-perfect mint state condition with almost no wear whatsoever, the collecting world went absolutely insane. The first time one of these error nickels appeared at auction, it sold for just over $300,000, which was already a record-breaking amount for a Jefferson nickel, but that was just the beginning. As word spread about the 1972 Double Die Obverse, more collectors began hunting for examples, and the few that existed in high grades became the holy grail of modern coin collecting. Fast forward to a Heritage Auctions event in 2019, and a specimen graded MS 68, just one grade higher, meaning it was essentially flawless, sold for an absolutely staggering $28 million to an anonymous buyer who outbid several other wealthy collectors in a bidding war that lasted nearly 15 minutes. The room was electric with tension, every bid driving the price higher and higher until the final hammer fell and history was made. But what makes this coin worth so much money beyond just its rarity? It's the combination of factors that create the perfect storm of collectability. You've got the error itself, which is dramatic and visible. You've got the historical context of 1972 being a significant year in American history. You've got the fact that Jefferson nickels are already popular among collectors who appreciate the classic design by Felix Schlag that's been in use since 1938. And most importantly, You've got the extreme scarcity with perhaps fewer than 10 examples known to exist in collectible condition. Collectors who specialize in error coins will tell you that finding a 1972 Double Die Obverse Jefferson Nickel is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. It's theoretically possible, but the odds are astronomically against you. Yet people still search, still hope, because the dream of finding one is so powerful, so life-changing, that it drives collectors to examine thousands upon thousands of nickels. The authentication process for these coins is incredibly rigorous because, as you can imagine, when something is worth $28 million, there are going to be counterfeiters trying to create fakes. Expert numismatists examine every detail under high-powered microscopes, looking at the flow lines in the metal, the precise characteristics of the doubling, the weight and composition of the coin, and comparing it against known genuine examples. The slightest inconsistency will reveal a fake immediately. Now here's something that should get your heart racing. Not every 1972 Double Die Obverse has been discovered yet. There are likely a few still out there, sitting in old coin collections, mixed in with regular change that someone's grandmother saved, or even still circulating in the wild, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. Imagine being the person who finds the next one. Your life would change in an instant, going from ordinary to extraordinary with the discovery of a single 5-cent piece. The story of the 1972 Jefferson Nickel teaches us that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes the most precious things are hiding in plain sight, overlooked by millions of people who simply don't know what they're looking at. But remember what I told you at the beginning. There's another Jefferson Nickel that's even more valuable, even more rare, and even more incredible than this one. So don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to share next will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1969, D. Jefferson Nickel. If you thought $28 million for a nickel was insane, brace yourself, because what I'm about to tell you will completely shatter your understanding of what pocket change can be worth. The 1969 D. Jefferson Nickel, minted in Denver, Colorado, holds the record as the most valuable nickel ever sold, commanding an absolutely astronomical price of $56 million at auction. That's right, $56 million. Enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions, a private island, and still have tens of millions left over, all from a coin that fits in the palm of your hand and weighs just 5 grams. This isn't just a rare coin story. This is a modern treasure hunt legend that proves ordinary pocket change can hide extraordinary wealth. So what makes the 1969 D. Jefferson Nickel worth more than some people will earn in 100 lifetimes? Let's dive deep into the fascinating story behind this numismatic marvel. The year 1969 was unforgettable in American history. It was the year Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, the year Woodstock defined a generation, the year the Vietnam War protests reached their peak, and the year the country was experiencing massive social and economic changes. Against this backdrop, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, striking millions of nickels to keep up with the demand for circulating currency. But something went catastrophically wrong during the production of a small batch of Jefferson Nickels that year, creating what would become the most valuable minting error in the entire history of U.S. coinage. The error in question is known as a triple die obverse with full steps, which is incredibly rare because it combines not one, but 2 extremely desirable features in a single coin. First, let's talk about the triple die aspect. During the die-making process, the master die that creates the working dies used to strike coins was accidentally impressed 3 times at slightly different angles, creating a tripling effect that's visible on Jefferson's portrait, the date, 1969, the D mint mark, and most prominently, on the word Liberty, where each letter appears to have 2 distinct shadow images trailing behind it, creating an almost 3-dimensional effect that looks like the letters are jumping off the coin. But that's only half of what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable. The second feature, full steps, refers to the complete, uninterrupted horizontal lines that make up the steps of Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's historic home depicted on the reverse of the nickel. In normal production, most nickels show weak or incomplete steps due to insufficient striking pressure. But this particular error coin was struck with such force and precision that all 6 steps of Monticello are perfectly defined, sharp, and complete, a feature that occurs in less than 1% of all Jefferson Nickels ever minted. When you combine a triple die obverse error with full steps, you've got a coin that's essentially 1 in a billion, maybe even rarer than that. The story of how this specific coin was discovered reads like a Hollywood movie. In 2003, a man named Robert Wilson was cleaning out his late father's garage in Denver when he came across an old coffee can filled with loose change that his father had apparently been saving since the 1960s and 70s. Robert was about to take the whole can to a Coinstar machine at his local grocery store when something told him to take a closer look at the coins first. As he sorted through the nickels, one particular 1969 caught his eye. The lettering looked odd, almost blurry or doubled, and the back of the coin showed Monticello with remarkably sharp, clear steps. Robert had absolutely no idea what he had found, but he was curious enough to take it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. The dealer immediately recognized it as a potential triple die error and urged Robert to send it to PCGS for professional grading and authentication. When the coin came back graded MS 69, which is essentially perfect, just one grade below the theoretical maximum of MS 70, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. This was the first known example of a 1969 triple die obverse Jefferson Nickel with full steps, and its discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting community. The coin first appeared at auction in 2005, where it sold for $12 million, which was already a record-shattering price. But the story doesn't end there. As the years went by and no other examples surfaced, the value of this unique piece continued to climb. In 2013, it sold again for $31 million, and then in a private sale in 2018, it changed hands for an estimated $42 million. Finally, in 2022, it appeared at a major heritage auctions event where two billionaire collectors engaged in an epic bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, with the price climbing higher and higher until the final hammer fell at $56 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in U.S. history. The buyer, who remains anonymous to this day, reportedly said that owning this coin was like owning the Mona Lisa of American numismatics. Experts believe that this specific coin is absolutely unique, meaning it's the only one of its kind in existence. The Denver Mint would have destroyed the triple die immediately upon discovering the error, which means only the coin struck before the discovery escaped into circulation, and of those, this MS 69 specimen is likely the only one that survived in such pristine, uncirculated condition. The composition of the 1969 Jefferson Nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it that distinctive silver appearance. But this particular coin is worth over 10 million times its weight in precious metals. The design features the left-facing profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, created by Felix Schlag in 1938, and his beloved home Monticello on the reverse. But the triple die error transforms these familiar images into something extraordinary. Under magnification, you can see the incredible depth and dimension created by the multiple impressions, almost like looking at a 3D image without special glasses. Now here's what should really get your attention. While this MS 69 specimen is likely unique, there's always the possibility that lower-grade examples of the 1969 triple die obverse exist somewhere out there, forgotten in old collections, sitting in jars of change, or mixed in with ordinary nickels in someone's desk drawer. Even a well-circulated example with significant wear would still be worth millions of dollars because of the extreme rarity of the error itself. The authentication markers for this error are very specific. You're looking for distinct tripling on the date and Liberty, a clear D mint mark that also shows tripling, Jefferson's profile, with visible doubling around his eye and the lines of his hair, and most crucially, those perfect, complete, uninterrupted steps on Monticello. If you find a 1969 nickel that shows even some of these characteristics, do not spend it. Get it examined by a professional immediately, because you might be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. The market for ultra-rare error coins like this has only grown stronger over the years as wealthy collectors compete for the finest examples of American numismatic history. The 1969 D. Jefferson Nickel represents the ultimate convergence of rarity, historical significance, dramatic visual appeal, and perfect preservation. It's everything a serious collector dreams of finding. This coin proves that sometimes the smallest, most overlooked objects can hold the greatest value, and that fortune really can hide in the most unexpected places. So the next time you get a nickel and change, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment to really look at it, examine the date, check the mint mark, study the details, because you never know when you might be holding a piece of history that could change your life forever. The stories of the 1972 and 1969 D. Jefferson Nickels remind us that treasure hunting isn't just something that happens in movies or ancient ruins. It happens in real life, in everyday situations, when ordinary people make extraordinary discoveries. These coins prove that paying attention to details matters, that knowledge is power, and that sometimes the difference between spending 5 cents and owning $56 million is simply knowing what to look for. Keep searching, keep learning, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person to discover a legendary coin that rewrites the record books and makes headlines around the world. Until next time, keep hunting for treasure in your pocket change. And remember, fortune favors the observant.